Juvenile Detention Center Board meeting to order. Sheila, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mayor Joe Carr.
Here.
Judge Steve Daniel. Here. Ms. Claire Maxwell. Here. Dr. Michael McDonald. Here. Superintendent William Cope.
Here.
Dr. Anita Heron. Mr. Chris Johnson. Here.
Thank you. Vice Chair Daniel, have you had an opportunity to review the minutes of the previous meeting?
I have done so, and I think the correction has been made about the date that was on the minutes, and I find them in order.
Thank you. Is that correction been reflected in the current minutes, Sheila? Please. So let's have a formal motion and second on that correction. If I can have a motion, please.
I will so move with the amended date.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the amendment to the minutes say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. The amendment stand corrected. We need a motion for the corrected minutes. Can I have a motion on that, please?
I so move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the amendments as corrected say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the amendment stands corrected. The minutes stand approved. Thank you. Do we have anybody for public comment, Sheila?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay. Open positions, Lynn. Ms. Duke? Question, how long have these positions been open?
Should I start over?
OIT. They're good.
So we have had all of our positions filled, but then we will have someone leave, or a background check will not be passed, and we'll have to begin again.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Ms. Duke regarding open positions? Seeing none, without objection, we'll move to item 5, data report.
So on the table in front of you, you have our facility data report. There are 6 Rutherford County in the facility, and we do not have any out-of-county residents at the time that I left the building.
Questions for Ms. Duke regarding the data report? Comments? Dr. McDonald, you're recognized. Make sure your mic is on.
Carry on now.
Thank you.
One quick question. I see where we have a couple of juveniles who are being charged with attempted co-conspirators, and those are juvenile offenses. And I was curious if these involve adults that may be juveniles that may be co-conspirators with adult alleged conspirators.
Ms. Duke, is that something we can answer?
I can tell you that the majority of these do not have an adult co-defendant, although some do. And if I'm any more specific, it may lend to identifying someone, but the majority of these young people did not have an adult co-defendant.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Duke regarding the data report? Seeing none, if there is no objection, we'll accept and move to item 6, Educational Services Report.
So this is for the month of January. It's the report that you're used to seeing. Really, the only anything of interest on here is that we did have a weather closure and a holiday. But beyond that, January was pretty uneventful.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Duke. Any questions or comments for Director Duke regarding the Educational Services Report? Seeing none, if there is no objection, we'll accept and move to item 8, Safe Exchange Facility.
7?
I'm sorry, 7, Employee Recognition Appreciation. I skipped one, didn't I? My apologies. Dr. McDonald, I think this is yours.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to thank the board for their formal support of this, this proclamation and the letter that hopefully will be sent out formally to each of the individually to each of our employees. I think there's only really 2 things that may require board action, and the other things are just some housekeeping matters. The first one relates to just getting an update on when the proclamation itself will be presented to the full commission. And secondly, just a follow-up on the videotape that we had talked about creating as a board.
So I can answer the first question. Apparently, the proclamation recognizing the staff at the Juvenile Detention Center created a bit of a kerfuffle. I do not understand why, but it did with some county commission members, apparently over the timing of that. I still do not understand why. But I'm not a member of the commission, so I don't preside over the commission, and I don't have a vote on the commission. I will say this. I think it's appropriate that we recognize, I believe as the mayor and the chair of this body, that we recognize people who do good work in our community. And I do think, Dr. McDonald, that was your intent in what you were trying to accomplish. If I'm mistaken in that, please correct me. But I think that was a very well-intended and appreciative effort. I think this board, this committee voted on that, but for whatever reason, there were some on the commission who objected to it and the timing of it. Having said that, going forward, if you ever want a proclamation or, not a proclamation, if you ever want a resolution recognizing a group or an individual or an entity or something in our community for laudable service or whatever, it's always best that you can approach me, but I then have to take that to a county commissioner to bring that to the commission body, just so you know. I know historically in the past, the mayor has chaired the county commission, and it was always appropriate for that resolution to come to the mayor, who was acting as chair of the commission, but I don't act as chair of the commission. So I guess what I should have done, Dr. McDonald, was said to you, I'm going to move this to a commissioner. I did that, and then that's where apparently the problem was. So I hope that provides the explanation.
It does, and I just think that perhaps the main point here is that this board has gone on record in support of our employees.
That's correct.
And that's the only authority that we have, and I respect that.
And it was unanimous, by the way.
Right, and so the second, like I said, I think relates to the letter itself, which I think is something being done internally, and just kind of getting a follow-up on how we're going to handle that.
Once those signatures are put on the letter of appreciation, then I can send those out immediately to all of the JDC employees.
Nice.
Yes.
There are two signature sheets to the letter. One of them shows that you prepared it, and then one of them is left blank, and I didn't know which way you wanted the signature sheet.
The one left blank because this is a
Okay.
board decision. Yeah.
Okay.
And if
Thank you, though. Thank you.
And if I may, Dr. McDonald, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. Sometimes this kind of thing I don't do enough of for whatever reason, not to make excuses, but I appreciate you doing this because this kind of recognition is important, and it's important that our community understand it, and I do appreciate you taking the time and effort to prepare this.
If I can just make a personal statement very
Please.
quickly. When I came on this board, I guess it was 2022, and our director and Captain Caesar, along with the staff, were nice enough to extend to us a tour, that 2 or 3 hour tour. It was probably one of the most enlightening things that could have happened for me to get a better understanding about what happens here. And so it was really that tour which, and the Bible says, in all you're getting, get understanding.
And
And so it was actually that tour, and Superintendent, I believe you may have been there, that provided me with kind of this third eye of understanding what really happens. And so much of our first responders, because these are first responders, in some case, last responders before these young people, matriculate to the adult system. And the second thing was a letter, I think, that was presented in November, December, from one of our former residents, I'll use the word residents, who expressed his or her appreciation to the center for being basically a life raft. And so what has happened here in this short time that I've been here has not been wasted on me. And I just wanted to make sure that our employees understand we appreciate what they do, the community appreciates what they do, and perhaps what's happened just raises the level even more why it's so important.
thank you for that. Thank you very much. I couldn't agree more. And I, too, when I took the tour, I had my eyes open. So thank you, Dr. McDonald, for that.
Or, sir,
Yes, Dr.
can you
Herring?
just explain to me, because I'm really a little clueless. Are we not going to be presenting these documents, or?
Yes, we will be.
Okay.
There was an objection by a couple of commissioners about the timing of it, and so in deference to their objection, we took it off the February commission calendar, and I believe I'm going to get with Chairman Phillips, and is our intent to put it on the March agenda. Okay, so it's not that we're not going to do it. I think I've communicated this with Dr. McDonald. We're just going to wait 30 days, if that's okay. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did. I think I heard it said right.
You never know.
Yeah, the last point is I think my understanding is that we're pursuing this as an initiative, and so I would ask that any further action or discussions regarding this program just kind of be postponed or delayed until we get through the budget for FY25.
And let me say this, if any member of the committee, the board, has read the resolution and you would like to, maybe after reading the resolution, we do have this 30 days, you want to tweak it a little bit, I would ask that you talk to Dr. McDonald and do that. I don't think there would be any objection to that. So let's take advantage of this opportunity to make a really good resolution, maybe great. I don't know. I see no changes in making. I think it's great as it is. But if you haven't read the resolution, please do so and communicate your thoughts to Dr. McDonald on that. I think it's important. And the letter. Okay, now we'll go to the Safe Exchange Facility. Vice Chair Daniel, you're recognized.
Well, before we do that, I'd like to commend Ms. Duke. One of the things that was in the packet here is the approval by the Tennessee Department of Children's Services after their inspection of the facilities, and the passage of that agency approving the facility from November 1st, 2023 through October 31st, 2024. So that we recognize that effort, I think it would be appropriate.
Thank you.
All right, so then, let me first explain just a little bit about what a safe exchange facility is. In the area of domestic relationships where children are involved particularly and parents are splitting up, there is many times an issue about safety in the exchange of children. And this is true in most every situation where there's high emotional pitched feelings between both the parents as well as their families and extended families. And it becomes a place where violence and unthoughtful conduct can take place. This happens in adult court. My experience was that you had to make sure that when you identified such a case that you had some protection. Amazingly, there are vast numbers of cases in juvenile court in which the determination of parentage as well as custodial arrangements for those children are being adjudicated every day by Judge Lampley. And it would be a good thing to have a safe exchange facility to facilitate those types of exchanges. Normally, a safe exchange space is an area that's under surveillance by video surveillance and is monitored by some agency. At our current facilities, based on my investigation and in contacting Judge Lampley, it appears that there is video surveillance in front of what I'll call the court area and court clerk area of the facility. That's different from the area entering into the detention area in the side where we formerly met. So the question is, who can monitor that? And there would be a need to have signage determining or defining the area that's covered by the cameras so that the participants know to make the exchange in that area. Now, not only in many counties that have this is the safe exchange available for the purpose of child swapping, but for example, somebody's selling something online and they want to make the exchange in an area that's subject to surveillance. So I spoke with Judge Lampley. I invited him to come today to express his views, but unfortunately, he's participating in a funeral of a local close friend, I think from the fire department, and he's not available. So he sent me a letter asking me to advance his position that he would like to have such a facility and for us to try to go forward. So my suggestion is that we explore the use of the camera coverage that currently exists and perhaps look to someone who might be able to monitor that exchange as well as trying to obtain the signage to do this and provide Judge Lampley an opportunity to advance his determination to use that area for safe exchange, and it would be open for other safe exchanges as well.
Where does this safe exchange occur currently?
Well, sometimes in my experience, I used to use McDonald's or I might use some other place that was public and it was not a safe exchange. So this is a continuing problem. Of course, it might be that the current trial judges are using the sheriff's office. That would be one potential place. But again, the idea is once you have signage there and it's under surveillance, people who can read the signage would be less inclined to be involved in some kind of conflict than if it were simply going to someone else's house. Normally, on child exchanges, whoever is the custodial parent as a part of the agreements or the determination of the court is determine where the exchange takes place. And only in cases where there's an anticipation of some type of difficulty would you need to have a safe exchange.
I guess my question is, when the court determines or some controlling entity determines that the potential for conflict as a result of the exchange is there's a real potential there for that, the court, does it not have an obligation to provide a safe facility for that exchange to take place? Is there not a responsibility on the part of the court to provide that, Judge? I'm trying to find
The
out.
responsibility is on the parents.
Oh, really? Okay.
And unfortunately, some parents and some people lack the common sense to be able to comply with a safe exchange. And we never know when that is going to be a problem.
So, right, and so I'm drawing on your experience. When you determine or you suspect there may be a conflict as a result of an exchange, in your personal history, what did you do to best facilitate a safe exchange in something like that?
In the most egregious situation, I'd have the exchange at the sheriff's office.
Not at
or the
McDonald's.
police department.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, people would have problems in being able to have the exchange at their homes. And it would become either there was a transportation issue or a conflict issue, and there would be a place that would be halfway, because nobody was going to go over halfway between, the different competing parties. So you'd select a place that was in the medium of those two combatant parties, I'd use that term loosely, for the exchange.
Does Judge Lampley have any idea about how many of these safe exchanges would occur on a monthly basis or a yearly basis? Do we have any knowledge of that?
It's almost impossible to determine that. The easiest way to do it, if there is some difficulty for exchanges, would be to have it at the safe exchange location. And it's easier here for young people because that's where they had the adjudication.
Right. So I guess, let me just tell you why I'm asking these questions. I think this is a splendid idea. And so I'm trying to quantify the need, if that makes sense. And so, because obviously we have a very crowded facility that Judge Lampley has over there. As a matter of fact, he needs an additional courtroom. We've talked about that. This is the first I've heard of a safe exchange area. So I'm kind of going through my mental Rolodex about what facilities we have right now that can be adjusted to accommodate this immediate need, and how urgent is this need that we need to accommodate. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to figure this out in my head.
Let me back up.
Please.
I'm not suggesting that the safe exchange has to be inside the building.
Okay.
The video covering the parking lot would be adequate.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a situation where you're trying to build something or do something. The cameras apparently are already there, according to Judge Lampley, in the front of their building. The idea here is this is a step down, really, from the situation where you have to go to the jail or the police department for the exchange. This is a place where the exchange can take place, where it's under video supervision as far as problems are concerned. It's announced publicly because of the signage that this is under surveillance, and that diminishes a good bit of the rancor there.
Yeah, the signage isn't an issue. That's not a problem, and the video surveillance isn't an issue because, like you said, the parking lot is already under video surveillance.
And really, it doesn't make any difference about the number, because if we're successful in helping these people make the exchange where they reduce the temperature and are able to better co-parent, if we just help in one situation, it's the best for the child. It is an improvement for their well-being and growth.
Okay.
Judge, correct me if I'm wrong, but In Middle Tennessee, there's only one official safe exchange spot, and that's at MPD.
Murfreesboro Police Department?
Murfreesboro Police Department has one. This would be an addition, and I think it's a fantastic idea. It's usually, Judge, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's usually, you're only talking about 2 to 3 stalls that are designated safe exchange parking spots. And it's really a deterrent. I mean, these folks are making these exchanges one way or another, but this gives them a place to go where they feel comfortable. Correct, Judge?
That's right. And of course, they have initiated one in Nashville too. They're just beginning it. But this would be a tremendous improvement for our citizens. And it would be forward thinking for the juvenile system and their responsibilities.
And I misunderstood. I thought what Judge Lampe was trying to communicate through you, Judge, was the idea that he wanted to designate a part of his facility inside the building as a safe exchange room or facility. You're not saying that. What you guys are saying is we want to designate maybe 2 or 3 parking places in the parking lot close to the facility that are under surveillance, and then designate that with appropriate signage so everybody knows that these places are under surveillance for the purposes of a safe exchange and are being recorded. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So, any other comments or discussion on that?
One of the things I'd like
Thank
to
you.
discuss would be that what type of monitoring are we talking about? Or is it just that it's monitored and recorded, or do we want live eyes on those monitors? I know that the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department has cameras at the front of that building that they monitor and can record when they're there, but I don't know what the situation is for them after hours. Another consideration, just for discussion, is that in the event that there is any kind of disagreement between the parties, I have some concerns that they may try to come over to our intake area, which is a 24-hour door, and, hope to get some safe help from us, which we wouldn't be able to provide. We can call, 911 for them. But those are just my 2 things. Who would be monitoring, what type of monitoring, and would it potentially affect the business that's currently happening in the front of the building, either during business hours or after? Those are just discussion points.
Judge Daniel, let me ask this in lieu of that. Are in most cases, these safe exchanges are not supervised by law enforcement or an appointee of the court or anything like that. Is that correct?
Conceptually, they're not, but they're being monitored so that there could be a response.
Can you define for me what monitored means? Is that like in real time? So somebody is watching a video camera while the exchange is taking place, as it's taking place? Is that
Right.
correct?
Mm-hmm. That would be ideal.
Okay, so these exchange,
Obviously, the recording would also be good for evidence purposes.
no question, are these exchanges, these exchanges are scheduled at such and such a date and such a time. So somebody who would need to monitor would be alerted that they need to be wear a camera in front of a camera video monitor. Is that correct?
It could be a part of the court order that would
Okay.
support that.
Any other questions? Yes, Dr. Herron, you're recognized. Can you turn your mic on, please? Thank you.
And MPD, they have that beautiful facility in the lobby, which is under surveillance the whole entire time. And even if you go on the outside, because what I have found with safe exchanges, it doesn't stop and deter sometime with these when there's domestic violence involved. But once they get inside the building, it does deter them because they know they're completely under surveillance, every inch of it. But it also allows the mother to come and the child can be there, and then the father can come in, and then it gives the time that the escape or the movement can be where they're not leaving at the same time, or at any point that it can be, that she can still get punched in the face, or she can still get violent. But I just was out at the MPD, and I just thought it was beautiful because there's a side of that lobby that they can actually have, and even the father could stay there and still have the visit, or the mother can still stay there and have the visit, and not interrupt anything. And because that footage is under that, it's public knowledge, they can download the footage, they can, either the parent and the courts, but it's right there under 24-hour surveillance and not so much in that parking lot, because that parking lot can get a little busy. So just my work with safe exchanges, it is not always in that parking lot, is not always the safest, even if they are under court order. And it doesn't even, because sometimes it is just not always the safest thing. And depending on the nature of the court order, you would have even a worker that would do that, a foster care worker or a DCS worker that would be the one doing the exchange and not the mom, just for fear purposes and violent purposes as well.
You have a whole variety of incidents and capacities for these events, but there simply aren't very many facilities like what you're talking about. And then you have the distance involved and the difference. This is simply an additional alternative. It is used for juvenile cases, but it could be used for anyone. There is no potential to have every type of safety protected.
I'm just thinking like every police department could be an exchange and not so much of the court system. The court system, they've already been through the court system. And I just believe that if you move it away, because even from the trauma of the child, in a sense, right? Because I don't know, if you just move it, and not that it's not as it's still sort of sterile when it comes to the police department, but at least it is under a better, ungrainy supervision, I think, because there's so much clarity that will be there. But every police department has that surveillance in the lobby. And it's not outside in the parking lot, but if they go inside, because it gives that extra buffer. So even if the dad wanted, or the mom, whichever is the violent person, wanted to do something, they would be more apt not to do it, versus if I'm parking right next to you, and if I really wanted to push you, could you really tell if I really pushed you? Because it's like, oh no, I was just getting the baby, because you really can't see all of that. That's why I've always just meet me in the inside, because it's that extra layer of buffer for.
The problem with what you're talking about is that there's only so much space and so many times as the police department could be used. There's a large number of people who need to have a place where they can exchange, and this would help facilitate that.
How urgent, Judge, is this need? The reason I'm asking, let me tell you why I'm asking, because I don't have any objection to informing, as the mayor, Adam Dodd, who's head of maintenance, to produce the signage that would show that these 3 parking lots are the designated parking lots for safe exchange, for Judge Lampley's court or whatever, and it's under constant video monitoring. However, when we go to monitoring an exchange in a live format, that is a different matter that I need to discuss with the Office of Information Technology in Code of York to determine what kind of additional, if any, resources we need to monitor that scheduling of the safe exchanges. You see what I'm saying? So there are multiple layers here. I can address some of these pretty quickly. Others are going to require a little bit of work, and I'm just trying to manage expectations.
Well, there is none now.
I'm sorry?
There is no such facility at the juvenile department. But now, the camera's already there. It's
Correct.
a question of who can monitor it from that camera, or if those cameras can facilitate that.
That's correct. So we have 2 questions with regard to the monitoring. Are those cameras able to be monitored, or are they just recording, right? And if they're recording, how long do those recordings last? So, and I will want a motion in a second on this, but my suggestion from the commission, the board, would be to authorize me to go ahead and get Adam to produce that signage on behalf of Judge Lampley, and then in the next 30 days, let me look at what OIT can currently do without the appropriation of additional resources. It may be adequate, it may be inadequate. That's for this board to decide. So I don't want to walk out of here with not doing something based on Judge Lampley's request. I just don't know that I can accomplish everything that he's asking at this particular meeting.
Well, I would make a motion that an investigation be made as to the capacity of the cameras at the Juvenile Detention Center to capture a safe exchange location, and that the information be available for monitoring by some source, and that inquiry be made.
Would you be opposed to changing that verbiage to the Juvenile Services Center so that if it is more appropriate for the Sheriff's Department or some entity of Judge Lampley's, that kind of covers them instead of the Juvenile Detention Center?
I would like my motion to include any county agency that's capable of providing the monitoring, whether it be Juvenile Services, Sheriff's Department, Workhouse, whoever.
And just for clarity, when you say monitoring, you're talking about real-time monitoring,
I am.
not just the video and audio, potential audio recording, correct?
Both. No, I can't.
So, you'll go, Sheila, you'll have to go back. You'll have to go back and listen to the tape. That's all I can tell you. I don't want to restate. Let me try to restate the motion. Judge Daniel is making the motion for the chair to use the county resources to investigate the idea of what facilities and places within the county. Your microphone, please, Judge.
What the current cameras at the
Correct.
detention center can capture, and who could monitor and record that captured information in real time.
You have that, Sheila?
In real time.
Thank you. Do we have a second? We have a second from Ms. Maxwell. Do we have any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We will do that, and we will do our best to come back with some report at the next appointed meeting, Judge Daniel. What I may do is I may have, if not only that, I will have, unless something occurs, I'll have Cody York come and make a presentation. He can give a detailed explanation about the capabilities of our video recording, both live and on video, and that may help us move forward, if that's okay. Excellent. Any other business? Yes, Dr. McDonald.
Quick question, reminder for the board members to sign a letter before they leave today.
Thank you for that reminder. Any other business?
I have just two things. I just wanted to clarify that the reason that the licensing approval has come through now, even though the DCS monitoring happened late 2023, is because there was information that they had to get from another department, and that just took a little extra time for them to get, so that the letter is dated January, but this is from the monitoring that began late 2023. And then the last thing that I have is, last month we had some discussion about beginning to clarify some of the wording on the rap sheet that is turned into the public safety on a monthly basis. And so if you will notice where it once simply said detained for the first chart and released on the second chart, now it says detained, booked in, and then the second chart is released to guardian, not held. Now, that's still up for discussion, and we can tweak that, but that was my starting point.
Any questions for Ms. Duke on other business? Judge Daniel.
I noticed that Ms. Stevenson is recovering from shoulder surgery, and I wanted to wish her the best. Sonia Stevenson.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Yes, she is recovering, and she was in my office about an hour ago, and she's doing quite well. So thank you for that. Any other business?
Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Cope.
If I would, I'd like to mention that we will be doing hosting a community stakeholders reentry advisory meeting at our place at the Correctional Work Center, 1720 South Church Street, on February 29th at 11:30. Just to let you all know that everyone is part of reentry for people going back into society, so I'd like to invite you all to be there. Just RSVP to Lindsay Davis at 615-203-1021 or at lindsaydavis@rutherfordcountytn.gov.
Thank you for that. Any other business? Seeing none, without objection, we're adjourned.